As the college entrance exams approached, I realized my fiancé had fallen for Chelsea. I laid it all out for him, end it completely or the engagement was off. He remained silent all night, finally sending Chelsea abroad. At our engagement party, held after the college entrance exams, Chelsea, who had snuck back into the country, appeared with a swollen belly, demanding he take responsibility. "I'm carrying your child. Are you really going to abandon your own child?" He froze, then chased after her. I walked to the front of the stage, took the microphone, and said, "Ethan, if you leave this engagement party today, we are through." He hesitated, but in the end, he left. I discovered Ethan's feelings for another girl one ordinary morning. He was smiling at his phone again and told me he was going out for pizza. At that moment, I knew his heart had drifted from our relationship. Chloe, my best friend, asked me curiously, "Just because he was going to eat pizza?" "Yes," I nodded. "Because knew I had mouth ulcers. He wouldn't deliberately make me uncomfortable. It was just that, at that moment, his thoughts weren't with me." When it came time to fill out college applications, I wavered for an entire day, ultimately choosing Westwood University, the school I wanted to attend, instead of the one I had promised Ethan I'd go to. Ethan's grades weren't as good as mine. If I wanted to go to the same school as him, I would have had to waste a lot of points and choose a major I didn't like. But thankfully, at the last minute, I saw his wandering affections. And thankfully, my blinded by love phase cleared up just in time. Now, at the engagement party, watching him walk away, I felt immensely relieved. I was glad I had made my choice early on. It felt as if a huge rock, suspended over my head, had finally fallen. The relationship I had been unwilling to give up, despite my lingering reluctance, had finally reached its end. Chloe came over and hugged me. "It's okay, Audie, he's the any who missed out." I wanted to pretend I was fine, but my eyes were red-rimmed. I was still a bit weak, but within an acceptable range. I collected myself and began to deal with the aftermath. Mr. Arthur and Mrs. Eleanor, Ethan's parents, came over, looking a bit embarrassed, trying to excuse their son. "Audie, don't be angry, that boy went too far. When he comes back, we'll help you teach him a good lesson. Dad is from a divorced family, we would never accept her into the family. Don't worry, you are the daughter-in-law in our hearts." I laughed through my tears. What was this talk of teaching him a lesson? Just a few insincere words, nothing impactful. Ethan was Mr. Arthur's son, I'd be a fool to believe such pleasantries. I nodded at Ethan's parents, politely replying, "Uncle, Aunt, I should also congratulate you on having a grandchild soon." Ethan's parents looked awkward and quickly changed the subject. When they saw I was about to leave, they were still unwilling to give up. Mr. Arthur caught up to me. "Audie, if it's possible, once that woman has the child, we'll send her abroad, and you can raise the baby." "I'm sorry, my maternal love doesn't extend that far. I cannot raise someone else's child, especially the other woman's child." Hearing me say that, Mr. Arthur had nothing more to say. 1 week after the engagement party, I finally saw Ethan at General Hospital, along with a heavily pregnant Chelsea. They had both just come of age and looked somewhat immature. Their good looks immediately attracted many onlookers. The hospital director personally came out to greet the Vance heir. "Mr. Ethan, you can rest assured about your wife giving birth here. We will take excellent care of her." At these words, Chelsea's face flushed. But she prided herself on being a no-nonsense type and couldn't bring herself to be coy. So, with a bold gesture, she patted the director's shoulder. "Don't worry, old man, I won't cause too much trouble for you." The director's expression clearly showed his displeasure, but he said nothing more. Ethan didn't object to the term wife. He leaned against the wall, staring intently at Chelsea's belly. I instinctively clenched my fist. Were they already presenting themselves as a couple outside? He had left me in a mess at the engagement party, and a week later, without a word, he was here accompanying Chelsea for her prenatal checkup. I suddenly found it quite laughable. Perhaps, over these past few months, my so-called giving him another chance was completely unnecessary to him. I had been deluding myself. Chloe, who was supporting me, couldn't stand it and rushed up to Ethan. "You scumbag. So, you're here. Last week you were getting engaged to my best friend and meeting her family, and today you're here with the other woman for her prenatal checkup." Many patients and their families were passing by. Hearing the commotion, everyone looked over. Ethan's expression hardened. He whirled around and met my gaze. His eyes were full of blame, accusing me of letting Chloe speak out of turn. Chelsea, confident Ethan would defend her, simply watched the scene, chin tilted up. Indeed, Ethan stepped in front of Chelsea. "Audrey, control your people. If I hear words like that again, I won't hesitate to let Vance's legal department show her what we're capable of. Also, ours was an arranged business marriage, there was no emotion involved. Don't make yourself out to be so innocent. With a few simple words, he completely negated our entire relationship. Passers-by suddenly understood, looking as if to say, rich people really know how to have fun. Chloe wanted to say more, but I stopped her. She couldn't afford to provoke the family, and I didn't want her to be implicated because of me. I knew Ethan, he would truly follow through. He was a man of his word. I looked him straight in the eyes and suddenly smiled. Ethan, I'm warning you too. Watch your words and actions. Sterling's legal department isn't just for show either. Ethan pursed his lips. He was displeased that I had publicly humiliated him like that. What happened at the engagement party was my oversight, but it has nothing to do with Chelsea. Don't blame her. What if I insist on blaming her? I stared at him stubbornly. Besides, how could it have nothing to do with Chelsea? She was the leading lady in his desertion. Ethan stared at me for a while, then suddenly smiled. Audie, give me some time. I'll handle it, okay? Chelsea suddenly cut in. She didn't seem to feel any remorse towards me, waving her hand dismissively. All right, you're just being petty. Don't worry, I'll leave once the baby is born. Me? I yearn for freedom. Raising a baby and nursing it? I can't do that. So you'll have your work cut out for you. As she spoke, she placed her hand on Ethan's shoulder. I want to bravely venture into the wilderness, explore the Arctic. My treasure should be a world map, not domestic trifles. She carried herself like an enlightened heroine. Chloe rolled her eyes at her. So impressive? Then why be the other woman? Why be an ingrate? Why get pregnant before marriage? Because I'm free. I do as I please. I love whoever I want, Chelsea blurted out, without a hint of embarrassment. I love him, so I willingly conceived a child of our love, following my heart. Chloe was utterly shocked, speechless for a long moment. Ethan simply watched me. He didn't say anything more, just helped Chelsea leave. But his steps were somewhat chaotic and hurried. I also left General Hospital. I had just been experiencing some irregular periods due to excessive stress, and any hospital would do. I decisively switched hospitals, moving away from Ethan and Chelsea. Chelsea, that girl, I had actually met her first. She had been passed out drunk by the side of the road outside the bar, completely disoriented. I happened to be passing by, called the police for her, and she was safely taken home. That's how we met. But I never liked Chelsea. She lacked boundaries and morals and had many little tricks up her sleeve. So, I stopped associating with her. Who knew she would use thanking me as an excuse to repeatedly get close to Ethan? Over time, they became acquainted and went out together often. I had once told Ethan that I didn't want him to get too close to Chelsea, but he just smiled. What's wrong? She came looking for you. You saved her. I'm just helping you deal with her. I don't need your help dealing with her, I said. But, that would make you seem very unapproachable. Listening to his high-sounding excuses, I couldn't be bothered to say more. Ethan allowed her to get close and would find countless reasons for her, leaving me no say. I returned home late that night. Ethan lived in the house next door. I spent the entire night packing up all the things he had given me and taking them to his doorstep. Elena, his housekeeper, seeing it was me, came out to try and persuade me. Ms. Audrey, don't be impulsive. You two have known each other for so many years. How can some woman from outside compare? Elena, would you let your daughter marry a man who has a child with another woman? I countered with a smile. If I had known they had been intimate, I would never have let things drag on this long. At the time, I only thought they were crossing a line. Elena looked conflicted. Elena wanted to say no, but this was her employer's house, so she couldn't speak freely. I turned to leave when Ethan, who had suddenly appeared, called out to me. Are you in such a hurry? Yes, I don't like to drag things out, I replied. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, his expression terrifyingly calm. As I turned to leave again, he called out to me once more. And your things? Aren't you taking them? I finally entered the house. Ethan sat on the sofa, his eyes fixed on me. I busied myself packing the things I had given him. In the vast house, the only sounds were the dull thuds of me tossing items into boxes. He suddenly spoke. Does it have to be this way? I didn't turn around, continuing with my task. Of course. Since it's over, it needs to be a clean break. I didn't want Chelsea moving in and seeing the things I had given Ethan. It would bother her, and it would bother me. Ethan nodded, seemingly agreeing with me. He looked so calm, as if our separation was the most ordinary thing. Why? Why could the person who made the mistake walk away so nonchalantly? Suddenly, a wellspring of resentment and bitterness bubbled up within me. I sharply looked up at him. His features were exquisite. This face had brought about my first stirrings of love, making me fall completely for him. Even now, looking at him, my heart would still flutter. I asked him, "Will you regret making this decision?" Ethan paused, then smiled. "Maybe. Nobody can say what the future holds." His carefree, reckless attitude angered me even more. I strode forward and slapped him. Elena covered her mouth, staring at us in surprise. Ethan, however, smiled even more broadly. He even touched his swollen cheek, almost covetously. "This is the first time I've seen you so emotional. Even when I abandoned you at the engagement party, you only forced me to make a choice. You've always been superior." My pupils trembled slightly. "Me, superior?" Ethan took my stinging right hand, his voice incredibly soft. "Does it hurt? Do you feel a little better now?" I snatched my hand back as if greatly startled. In the long silence, our eyes uncontrollably turned red. As I left, carrying a box of things, I looked back at him. "Ethan, you've made my family, Sterling, lose all face. I won't let you off easy." "Okay." Chelsea didn't move in as I had expected. I heard she didn't want to live too close to me, fearing I might harm her child. Ethan bought her an apartment outside. As university's classes approached, Chelsea started acting up again. She wanted to live near the university Ethan was attending. Ethan still agreed. He was always so patient with Chelsea. Our class WhatsApp group chat was lively every day, constantly gossiping about Ethan and Chelsea. Ethan's best friend Jake directly mentioned him in the group. "Dude, what are you thinking? Are you really going to go to Westwood University with a burden?" Ethan, who had been silent all this time, uncharacteristically replied this time. "She's not a burden, she's my child's mother. Watch your language." Silence fell over the group chat for a moment. After a long pause, someone asked me when I was going to Westwood University. I vaguely gave a time. The classmates didn't ask further. Instead, Chelsea, whom Ethan had added to the group, started an onslaught against me. "Why are you still bothering Ethan? Are you doing this on purpose? Don't you know a good ex should be as good as dead? My baby is about to be born, and you're still trying to seduce him. Are you that desperate?" There was a moment of silence in the group. Then came a barrage of insults and curses from my classmates. They criticized her upbringing, called her the other woman, and an ingrate. Finally, because the argument became too ugly, Kevin, the class president, kicked Chelsea out. Kevin didn't forget to warn Ethan, "Don't add irrelevant people to the class group. This isn't the place for you to act crazy." Ethan, feeling embarrassed, voluntarily left the class group. I later found out that Chelsea had used Ethan's phone to add herself to the group when he wasn't looking. After this incident, Ethan came to my house to see me. I didn't see him. Our housekeeper relayed his message, saying he wanted to apologize to me and apologize for Chelsea. He also explained why Chelsea was pregnant. He claimed Chelsea drugged him, and he mistook Chelsea for me. The more I heard, the more disgusted I felt. The day Ethan flew to Westwood University, I ran into him at the airport. Chelsea, like a protective mother, blocked Ethan. "Audrey, Ethan is my child's father. You're still clinging on? Are you trying to seduce him into being the other man?" I scoffed. How dare she say such a thing? "You, the other woman who trapped him with a pregnancy, how do you have the nerve to say that? The one who isn't loved is the other woman. You, Audrey, interfered in our relationship," Chelsea declared righteously. Ethan kept his lips tightly pressed together, not speaking. He thought arguing about this in public was humiliating. Since was carrying his child, he naturally chose to stand by her. Ethan put an arm around Chelsea's shoulder, adopting a protective stance. "Audrey, it's useless for you to keep this up. You said it was over, and I won't go back. Don't follow me around anymore, it's undignified." Once again, he sided against me in front of others. The last shred of our childhood sweetheart's bond vanished at that moment. I fought back tears. "You're overthinking it. This airport isn't yours. A loser, and he expects me to pine for him. You're being too self-important. I was flying today too." As I turned to leave, Ethan called out from behind me, "You should reschedule your flight. Don't take the same one as us. It's better if we avoid each other." I paused, then quickened my pace. I wasn't on the same path as them anyway. My flight was going to the southern states, the opposite direction from Ethan. I had said it, if it was over, it would be a clean break. Before boarding the plane, I didn't forget to call my father, Richard, who was abroad. "Richard, cancel the investment in Vance. Finally came to your senses?" Richard had told me long ago that Ethan was not a good match, but I hadn't believed him then. Now, after hitting a wall, I was finally clear-headed. Vance and Sterling used to be on equal footing. These past few years, Richard had ventured into Europe and America to expand the market, and Sterling's market value had multiplied who knows how many times. It was no longer something Vance could contend with. Moreover, Vance's industry upgrade had failed a few years ago. If it weren't for Richard's investment, it would have gone bankrupt long ago. Now, the real show was about to begin. 2 days after starting Westwood University, I received a call from Ethan. His tone still sounded calm, but I could hear the hint of an approaching storm. Why? Didn't we agree to go to the same university? Because it's not worth it. Ethan wasn't worth it. I looked out the window at the campus corridor, filled with people coming and going, and slowly uttered the sentence. Ethan heard my unspoken meaning, and his breathing suddenly became rapid. Even if we can't be together, we're still friends. Oh please. I don't make friends with people who betray me. Hearing this, the person on the other end fell silent. Just as I was about to hang up, he spoke again. You know my past, so I won't let my child be an illegitimate child. This time, it was my turn to be silent. Despite outward appearance of success, he was actually an illegitimate child. Mr. Arthur was promiscuous, having many women outside when he was young. Ethan's birth mother was one of them. And Eleanor had been diagnosed with infertility years ago, which was the real reason Ethan could return to the family. I found it absurd. You're putting the cart before the horse. If you don't want your child to be an illegitimate daughter, then don't create an illegitimate daughter. I still remembered what Ethan had told me. He looked down on Mr. Arthur's promiscuity and indulgence and vowed never to become such a person. I clutched my phone. Ethan, you can't afford to lose. Mr. Arthur had more than one illegitimate child outside. Mrs. Eleanor didn't have much maternal love for him either. Canceling our engagement and going against the Sterling family, he had no chance of winning. Indeed, after Mr. Arthur learned I had withdrawn the investment, Vance publicly announced the cancellation of Ethan's heir status. Mr. Arthur even brought in another illegitimate child. This action directly showed that Mr. Arthur had given up on Ethan. Chelsea, upon hearing the news, was unusually happy. She posted a social media post with a photo of her pregnant belly and Ethan, captioned, "It's okay, you have me. From now on, you only have me." Chloe saw it too. She quietly asked me, "Don't you think Chelsea is crazy? Ethan's in such a mess, and she's still walking around happy all the time. Maybe it's love is all we need." Chelsea was foolish. She spoke and acted almost without thinking. In's eyes, that was called being straightforward. In my eyes, it was being mindless and unaware of it. 2 weeks of military training at Westwood University. 2 weeks later, I saw Chelsea at the dormitory entrance. She was holding a sign that read, "Audrey of the Business School, knowing's the other and acting." I frowned. What was she doing now? A crowd of students had already gathered. The dorm manager saw me and shook her head with a sigh. "Student, please handle this properly. This is a busy area, and if she, a pregnant woman, trips or gets hurt, no one can take responsibility." "I know," I said. I took a deep breath and walked towards Chelsea, who was fuming. She finally put down the sign, tossing it at my feet. She gritted her teeth. "What, finally decided to come out? Knowing she's the other woman and acting shamelessly, you're despicable." Immediately, the murmurs of the surrounding students grew louder. Looks of disdain, questioning, and scorn fell on me. Before her hand could slap me, I firmly gripped her wrist. I mocked her, looking her directly in the eye. "Do you have to make such a public spectacle of yourself? Who is really knowing she's the other woman and acting shamelessly? Don't you know? Audrey, he loves me. And you, his childhood sweethearts for so many years, couldn't keep his heart. That's your incompetence," Chelsea said, growing more smug. She had originally come because she was upset about Ethan calling me a wee K ago. Now that she'd gotten a few jabs in, she felt much better. She also didn't agree with outsiders calling her an ingrate. She had never asked anyone to take her home when she was drunk. Hadn't she always been fine even when she passed out? Chelsea always felt that I was morally blackmailing her. "Audrey, Chelsea, don't owe you anything. Instead, it's you who occupied my man for so long. You owe me." Chelsea stood with one hand on her hip, pointing at me with the other, completely self-righteous. I truly had to admire Chelsea's thought process. It really was better to blame others than to exhaust yourself. I rubbed my brow. I had truly suffered from being well-behaved and moral. "Chelsea, just leave. Arguing with you is pointless. You're a morally corrupt other woman. I feel dirty just talking to you. I told you, you are incapable of keeping a man's heart. I merely used a small trick and snatched him. Hearing's response, the students around us began to murmur louder. They didn't know the full story, but that didn't stop college students from gossiping. The dorm manager was frantic, fearing something might happen to Chelsea's belly. I spread my hands. If you're so confident, why did you come looking for me? Is it because you can't feel his love for you? Chelsea's face turned beet red at my words, and she suddenly reached out to push me. But I was already prepared. I sidestepped, dodging her. Chelsea, heavy and off balance, stumbled forward. Fortunately, a student watching nearby reacted quickly and caught her. You bitch. You want to kill me and my baby. Chelsea seized the opportunity to throw a massive tantrum. Just then, there was a commotion in the distance. It was Ethan. He rushed over, his forehead covered in sweat. Seeing Chelsea seemed to have finally found her protector, she immediately started pounding her chest, crying with such gusto. Ethan, she pushed me. She tried to kill me and the baby. She's so malicious. At her words, the students watching immediately objected. Hey, don't go too far. You were the one trying to push her, you almost fell yourself. Yeah, how can you slander her in front of so many people? Are you completely mindless? Ethan's expression shifted repeatedly as he listened. He gently comforted Chelsea a few times, then looked at me, his eyes complex. Audrey, she's pregnant, and her emotions are unstable. Why bother arguing with her? I rolled my eyes at him. They were truly a chaotic duo. Let's just let this go. Both of you take a step back, Ethan said, sounding a bit tired. He had just rushed back from Vance. These past few months, Vance had been in turmoil due to Sterling's withdrawal of investment. After Zare's status was cancelled, his position at Vance was precarious. He had been overwhelmed with stress lately. What if I don't want to? I countered. Ethan looked at me with disappointment. I know you resent me, but don't target Chelsea. If you have a problem, take it out on me. As he spoke, he draped his jacket over Chelsea's shoulders. Could he actually be that thoughtful? I remembered the time we came back from a concert late at night. I was shivering, constantly wrapping my t-shirt tighter. He was wearing a jacket, but to teach me a lesson, he refused to take it off for me. He even complained, look how you ruin the fun. You knew it would get cold at night, but you still dressed so lightly. I'm not taking off my jacket for you. Consider it a lesson so you'll remember. After that night, I fell seriously ill. Ethan visited me a few times, always wearing a mask, saying he was afraid I'd infect him, and he'd then infect Chelsea. Seeing that I remained silent, Ethan repeated, what do you want to let Chelsea off? I snapped back to reality. I looked at him and smiled. Then you withdraw from the apex. Ethan's pupils constricted. That was his only chance to turn things around. He had gone to great lengths, even drinking until his stomach bled, just to qualify F. Or the apex. It was the most coveted project in the tech world today, initiated by top global scientific research organizations and ambitious young people, aiming to develop technological breakthroughs that would revolutionize the existing landscape. Both he and I knew that if it succeeded, the profits would be immeasurable. I didn't think he would agree. I just wanted to provoke him. As I turned to leave, his voice sounded from behind me. I agree. I whirled around to look at him. Unconsciously, my eyes began to sting. Was it truly that much love? Even if it destroyed everything he had, would he go to such lengths? As I hurried away, I could still hear Chelsea's grumbling and Ethan's soothing words behind me. But I couldn't hear any of it. Tears flowed silently. I truly was an emotionally slow person. It wasn't until now that I could feel the sharp pangs of betrayal and abandonment in my heart. It hurt, terribly. That night, Richard called me. My dear daughter, he withdrew from the apex. You've successfully replaced him. Okay, I replied, my voice muffled. Richard sighed. Are you truly determined? Richard, I don't regret it. Even if he and I hadn't broken up, I would have fought for the apex anyway. At the time, I had assumed that since we were destined to be family, I wouldn't compete with him. I had even gone to great lengths to use Sterling's connections to help him network. Thinking back now, I was such an idiot. As expected, not long after, Mr. Arthur publicly disowned Ethan to the media. Before, it was just the cancellation of his heir status, but he could still hold an important position at Vance. Now, he couldn't even enter the Vance building. But he didn't seem afraid. He even publicly announced that day that he had successfully proposed to Chelsea. He also said that as soon as they reached the legal age to marry, they would get their marriage certificate. He truly chose love over ambition. If I weren't one of the parties involved, I wouldn't be able to resist praising their stirring love story. A few days later, I ran into Ethan on campus again. He had clearly been waiting downstairs for a long time. He looked somewhat dejected, but seeing me, he hesitated and then walked over. Audrey, can we talk? There's nothing to talk about. I lifted my foot to leave. Ethan caught up to me. What happened a few days ago? I know I wronged you. I looked at him in surprise. He had come for this? He lowered his head and continued, but the baby is coming soon, and I can only stand by her, even if I know she's wrong. I will marry Chelsea. I won't let my child be an illegitimate child. I looked at him seriously. I hope you never regret it. Saying this, I turned my back to him. Since you're so responsible for the child, you should be careful not to get drugged by a woman again. You wouldn't want another illegitimate child to appear. Ethan's lips moved, but he said nothing in protest. And I had already turned and left. From then on, I didn't see him or Chelsea on campus. I occasionally heard about their current situation from high school classmates. I heard that Chelsea's temper grew increasingly volatile after giving birth, and they often argued. And, to ensure his child had a good life, took a leave of absence and used his remaining money to start a business. At first, life was indeed extremely difficult. But in the year I graduated, I heard Ethan's small company had taken off. My father even remarked that Ethan, though his character was questionable, was quite a figure. And during these 4 years, I worked hard to improve myself. The project had made significant progress. I gradually made a name for myself in the industry. For a time, Ethan and I, the two people who had almost ended up together, were once again discussed in the same breath. Chelsea caused endless trouble over this. She fought imaginary battles, constantly slandering me within the circle. But everyone in the industry knew the true story. They ugged behind her back, saying she played innocent after getting what she wanted and that the more unpleasant the person, the more trouble they cause. A year later, I graduated from Westwood University. I heard more stories about them from Chloe. They said Ethan never went home, and Chelsea, to force him to return, would deliberately make the child sick. I just smiled when I heard it. Later, there was a high school reunion. I didn't avoid it just because Ethan might be there. There was no need for me to hide. When I arrived, Ethan happened to arrive too. Only 4 years had passed, but he had undergone a dramatic transformation. He had completely shed his youthful immaturity, looking like a seasoned veteran who had navigated the business world for years. He was dressed impeccably in a suit, his tie one I had given him. He leaned back in his chair, casually greeting me, "Long time no see. How have you been lately?" I'm well," I replied, tracing the ring on my index finger. The lighting was dim, and I couldn't clearly see Ethan's expression. I could only vaguely feel his invasive gaze, greedily fixed on me. He was still the same, calm no matter what happened externally, taking everything in stride. Even when he was kicked out of Vance. Back then, I never saw him panic. He suddenly asked me, "Aren't you going to ask how I've been?" For some reason, I could hear a hint of grievance in his tone. The private room grew quiet for a moment. Seeing that I remained silent, Kevin, the class president, stepped in to smooth things over. All right, we all know you're doing well lately. How could Audie not know?" Ethan's eyes suddenly lit up. "Really? You pay that much attention to me? Looks like you haven't gotten over me." He wasn't drunk, but his words sounded as if he were. The private room became even quieter. "Have you seen a doctor? What did they say?" I couldn't help but care for him. Someone in the room snickered, their face turning red from holding it in. Then remained absorbed in his own world, not getting angry, just smiling at me. "You're more sarcastic than before, and even more charming." My chest heaved with anger. "And you've changed, too. You've become greasy." As the words left my mouth, the door to the private room opened. A woman entered, holding a child. I didn't recognize her at first. Not until the child ran into Ethan's arms, calling Daddy, did I realize. It was Chelsea and their child. There was no warm family scene as I had imagined. Ethan was visibly annoyed. The smile vanished from his face, replaced by utter fatigue and vexation. Kevin whispered in my ear, "She's here to keep tabs on him again. She became the other woman, so she's terrified someone else will do the same to our new hotshot Mr. Ethan, drug him and trap him with a pregnancy." What was gained dishonestly naturally lacked security. Chelsea seemed not to recognize me. She walked up to Ethan, hands on her hips. "What do you think you're doing? Didn't I say I don't like you socializing with these people? Have you forgotten how they cursed me before?" She was an absolute shrew. Before, one could say she was an immature, somewhat childish girl. Now, constantly angry and naturally malicious, her face had changed. She looked like a harpy. Ethan was extremely embarrassed, not even bothering to care for the crying child. He scowled. Get out. The classmates were silent. Chelsea froze. Ethan, though he had grown increasingly impatient with Chelsea over the years, still showed her respect in front of others. And now, to think. Suddenly, Chelsea caught sight of me. Her eyes widened, and she charged at me, flailing wildly. Ethan reacted quickly, pushing her away before she could reach me. Are you crazy? Haven't you made enough of a scene already? Chelsea sat on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, completely disregarding her image. Oh, you scoundrel who abandons his family. Are you going to abandon me and the child just because you saw this Adductress? Then she stood up, forcefully shoved the child into Ethan's arms, and screamed through her tears, Quick, beg your father not to abandon you for his old flame, and beg Elena not to take your father away from you, not to ruin our family. The child cried hysterically from fright. Ethan took the child, veins pulsing on his forehead. Yet he couldn't handle Chelsea's shameless antics. I watched with relish. Indeed, only a shameless person could deal with someone as pompous as Ethan. For the first time, I felt they were perfectly matched. When his eyes met my mocking gaze, Ethan was mortified beyond words. The child sniffled, Daddy, don't abandon me. I don't want to be an illegitimate child. I don't want to be like you, an illegitimate child, boo-hoo. Hearing this, many classmates burst out laughing. This child was far too clever with words. My mood also lifted a bit. Watching space grow darker and darker, I had a rare moment of kindness and picked up the child, placing them on the sofa. Don't cry. Your face is all smudged like a little cat. The child hiccuped through their tears. Auntie, will you take my daddy away? No. I raised the engagement ring on my finger. Auntie already has a fiancé. I didn't look at Ethan's expression. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed many people around us staring with wide eyes. Even stopped her wailing. The next second, Ethan stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. It's not true, is it? Tell me it's not. His outburst silenced everyone. I smiled gently. It's true. I love him, and I want to spend my life with him. He was a senior from Westwood University, an engineering student with a lot of personal charm, a man who seemed unromantic but would clumsily show his affection. His methods of pursuing me were simply dreadful. He sent never-ending good morning and good night messages, and would even confess his feelings using what he thought were easily understandable chemical formulas. Or, to show off his exceptional Ming skills, he'd crush me in games 10 times. At first, I even thought he had something against me. Under the sunset on the day he confessed, his cheeks were flushed, more radiant than the roses he held. Thinking of Liam, a smile unconsciously formed on my lips. At that moment, Ethan looked as if a catastrophe had struck, unable to bear it. He let go of me, his face deathly pale. You love him? Yes, I do. I blurted out. Later, Ethan beat a hasty retreat. Chelsea, holding the child, chased after him. Meanwhile, the reunion continued. I heard that after they returned home, Ethan and Chelsea had a huge fight. They even talked about getting a divorce. But it didn't happen. Chelsea, with the child, threw a massive tantrum, crying, making a scene, and threatening to harm herself. Ethan had no choice but to hide at his office. This made Chelsea even more aggressive. She stormed into his office, demanding to know if he was keeping another woman there. It just so happened that I was at Ethan's company that day. Besides, in business, there are no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. I had a deal to discuss with Ethan. We were halfway through our discussion when Chelsea burst in. Seeing me, she completely lost it. Her shrill voice seemed to pierce my eardrums. You hussy. I knew you were up to no good. You're trying to seduce Ethan again. Her hair was disheveled. Her makeup was streaked across her face from tears, making her look like a harpy. She rushed towards me, trying to scratch my face. Ethan quickly stopped her. Chelsea, when are you going to stop making a scene? Chelsea continued crying and yelling. You're still protecting her? Ethan, don't forget, I'm your wife, and I gave birth to your child. Ethan felt nothing but annoyance and shook her off forcefully. Then he looked at me apologetically. I'm sorry, Audie, I'll handle this. I picked up my documents and walked out of the conference room. Chelsea tried to stop me, but Ethan blocked her again. He handed Chelsea over to a security guard and rushed after me, asking if I wanted a ride. I waved him off. No, thanks. My fiancé is picking me up. Downstairs at the office building, Liam was already waiting. I ran and flung myself into his arms. He stroked my head. Tired today? Want to grab a bite? I want something you cook yourself. Okay. Liam and I bantered affectionately, neither of us noticing what Ethan felt as he watched this scene. He felt his heart was torn in two. It was as if only now he could truly understand how I had felt back then. He swallowed the bitter taste that rose in his throat, muttering to himself, "So this is how painful it is." Just then, Chelsea finally broke free from the security guard. She stood with her hands on her hips and cursed at me from the roadside. "You hussy. You have a man, and you're still coveting my husband? You're disgusting." No sooner had she spoken than, before Liam and I could react, Ethan slapped Chelsea. Ethan roared with rage, his voice echoing everywhere, "I'm truly fed up with you. We're getting a divorce, right now, we're going to finalize the papers." Chelsea froze, her crying ceased abruptly. "What did you say?" Then she started throwing a fit, rolling on the ground, slapping herself and the floor, wailing incessantly. "Faithless man, a faithless man who abandons his wife and child." Ethan still ended up divorcing Chelsea. Chelsea was left with nothing and, at Ethan's doing, took on a significant portion of his debts. But didn't let Ethan off the hook either. In utter despair, she drove her car into Ethan, then jumped from a building to her death. Ethan didn't die, but he was permanently paralyzed from the waist down. For the rest of his life, he would be confined to a wheelchair, with a catheter bag. Not only that, before Chelsea committed suicide, she leaked his company's trade secrets to a rival company. Soon, Ethan's newly established small company was mercilessly targeted and cornered by. Why the rival? Months later, he was forced to file for bankruptcy. He seemed to have lost all spirit, spending his days in a daze. Even the child was sent to an orphanage. On the day Liam and I got married, he came too. He sat alone at a table, and no one paid him any attention. As and I exchanged rings, he finally couldn't hold back his tears. He knew he had completely lost. His love had been fractured long before Chelsea appeared. He had only found Chelsea interesting, he had only considered Chelsea a friend, but was so vicious she drugged him, ruining his entire life. And because of his childhood trauma, he couldn't bring himself to turn a blind eye to the child. Thus, he fell into a hell beyond redemption. As he pushed his wheelchair away, Liam and I were exchanging vows to spend our lives together. Thank you for reading today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to follow our page for more exciting stories. See you next time.